What's up, family? Welcome to L.U.S.T. Let Us Speak Truth. Today, we're going to talk about examples of deposits and withdrawals in a relationship and what examples did you set for your children? So Denise actually brought this topic in. So I'm going to let you start with it, Denise. And what are some examples of withdrawals and deposits?
Well, thank you first for having me on your show. I'm so excited for you. I think this is, can you hear me? Okay. Can you hear me?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hear you now. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So first, I'm so excited for you for starting this podcast. I think it's no easy feat anytime somebody steps out and decides that they're going to go and open up a platform of any kind for Q&A, right? And so it's difficult to do, right? Because it's one of those things where how do I manage my audience? How do I manage my guests? And really it's just, letting people just speak freely with no right or wrong answer, right? I think that was the thing I was thinking about today. There's no right or wrong answer to any of these things, right? There's just opinions. And for me, right, it's just my truth. And I told somebody that today. This is my journey. This is how I choose to walk. This is how I choose to be. And whether you agree or not agree, again, it's my truth, it's my walk, right?
Right.
So when we were talking yesterday, I was listening to, I don't know if it was a pastor or someone, but he was saying that it might have been a pastor, that when you make deposits or you give a woman something, she always creates something from that deposit, right? If you give her sperm, she's gonna make a baby. If you give her groceries, she's gonna make dinner or breakfast or whatever. If you give her a house, she's gonna make a home, right? So it kind of like stemmed from our conversation about when men say they want peace, or even a woman, right? You get what you get. You get what you give. And when you're saying, I just want peace, I want my wife to bring me peace. I want my man to bring me peace. But what are you putting out there? What are you giving that person? If you're a hellion, that's what you probably gonna get back, because women by nature are nurturers, right? We are builders. We're nurturers. We give life, right? And so whatever you give us, we're gonna give that back to you. We're gonna double it at some point, right? So if you give me hell, I'm gonna give you double the hell back. I'm not gonna give you peace if you deposit in hell. I'm not gonna do that. So I think those are some of the most valid things that I can think about, is when you're depositing or you're giving something to a woman. And I think the examples for our children, when we talk about, how you're receiving, how you're giving, how you're living, I think our children need to see that. They need to see you being, I don't want to use the word creative, but giving what someone is giving you to build upon. And so I think that's important for men and young women to see. Like, you have to create your own atmosphere. And I think we've gotten so caught up in what other people do, what you see in other relationships and all of this, that you can't even be mindful for your own stuff, and you don't even really know who you are walking through your relationship. Like, it's taken me 20 some years to really figure out who I am and what I really want out of a relationship. And I don't want to be empty. I don't want to continue just giving, right? So you're just kind of taking from me, and you're not causing anything. Right. You're just taking. So then if you're taking, I don't have anything left. What do I have for me? I have nothing left for myself. So I walk down, I'm heavy. I have nothing left, not even for my kids.
Mhm.
because my relationship is costing me so much. I have nothing to give to my children. So it's all about the right balance too.
Right. And what would you say, Tanya?
And I agree wholeheartedly. The thing about even relationships and the withdrawal deposit, for me, it's what you put into it. So what you invest, you shall receive.
Right.
I don't think a lot of people realize that the deposit is an emotional bank that they're depositing in. And so therefore, a lot of guys don't understand is that, and as she said before, peace. Listen, we come peace. We say we come peaceful. However, when that negativity starts to arise, we're just better at giving you something that you don't want or you can't take.
Right.
So therefore, it becomes a negative connotation for as women don't bring peace. We bring peace, that and much more.
Mm-hmm. Ooh,
You know what I mean?
And I love that because in the past podcast, all the men would say, when we said, what do you want from your spouse? What do you want? And they say, I want peace. Okay, what do you do to bring her peace?
Right.
So I looked up some things, and there are 6 major deposits. The first one is understanding. Second one, attend to the little things, because that we don't care about all that extra stuff, Do the little things. Keep commitments, clarify expectations, show integrity, apologize sincerely. And I agree with all of those.
Yeah, I think one thing to add to, Nick, is consideration. I'm really big on consideration right now. I just had a conversation with a sister friend of mine and her husband. We were on FaceTime. And I said, one of the things he was rattling off, like some of the things he brings to his wife. And I said, one of the things that I'm stuck on right now is being considerate. And that goes across the board. Consider me in your decisions. Consider me for dinner. Consider me when you're out with your friends. Consider me. Just pure consideration goes a long way. There's a lot of emotions tied to that, and there's a lot of accountability tied to consideration. And I think consideration is one of those things that's overlooked.
Absolutely. Now, what was funny to me when I was researching these deposits and withdrawals, I only found 6 deposits because we're so simple. Everything, it can be so easy.
Yeah.
Now I found 8 withdrawals. And the 8 withdrawals is feeling lonely, negativity, because we feed off that negative energy, take, constant worry, depression, irritability, confusion, and just lack of.
Wow.
And that's sad because we feel men don't understand how they can make a woman feel just by, it could be like one word.
Yeah.
That could ruin your whole day.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to me.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. I wholeheartedly agree.
Exactly. This I said before, men can dish it, but they cannot take it. We're just better at the game with our words. Our words.
Oh, yes.
Talking. And that's what irritates them, is because they don't have the mentality that we do as women. But again, most of us are simple. We want the simple things. We want to be noticed. We want you to be conscious awareness. That's very, very important, is conscious awareness. Be aware of what you do and how you do it and what you say. Be aware and take accountability.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who do you
think is
stronger, men or women?
Huh?
Who do you think is stronger, men or women?
I guess it would be in what context? Do you think emotionally stronger?
I would say emotionally, and well, that's kind of a hard one because I was going to say stability, but that's kind of hard because there are some stable men out there. I would say emotionally
Yeah.
stronger.
I think, for me, emotional intelligence is huge, right? You have to be in tune with your emotions. And I think a lot of times some of the men that I've known don't tap into their emotions or are afraid to show their emotions, right? They're afraid to be vulnerable. And so that's a weakness. When you're afraid to be, because vulnerability, I say this all the time, even on my show, Nick, that vulnerability is a strength. And people, they misplace vulnerability. And so when they're not vulnerable, it's a sign of weakness. And I believe that because women are emotional, a lot of women are emotionally driven, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, most of us, right? Some of us don't, because we've been hurt so many times before that I'm not going to put my heart out there for you to just kind of trample on it, right? So we lose that softness to us as far as being vulnerable, right? I'm not going to put my feelings out there for you to just walk all over them, right? And so men, because they're not, and again, my opinion, because they're not emotionally intelligent, right? And they're not emotionally in tune, and they have a fear of vulnerability, because maybe on the same side of the coin, right? That they think if I put my heart out there, she gonna trample all over it. She gonna think I'm weak. She gonna think I'm a punk, because I'm crying or whatever. But because of that, I believe that women are stronger as far as emotions go. Men are stronger, they hold it in more. But women, I think because we kind of let loose, that it's funny because I feel like my mother outlived 3 husbands, and I just think it's because she was emotionally available. But I think that women are just stronger, because I think we let our feelings fly when we're allowed to.
Right. Tanya, what
because
would
a
you
lot of times people don't validate our feelings.
Right.
Exactly. Women, shall I say, we are the most definitely the stronger Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
We are, because we have been taught to tear down barriers.
Yeah.
Our body goes through changes, hormonal changes.
Hold on.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I had to turn on my phone.
Okay, we're able to pain, we're able to endure pain, so, and then we're thinkers as well. We're thinkers. We mature quicker than guys, so of course, I've always said, for me as being a mother, I'm able to do the grocery shopping, do the homework. I'm able to cook the food. I'm able to drive the kids to school, be a banker and a referee all in one setting. Yeah, whereas a lot of men can't do that, because they become emotionally broken, and they can't handle that.
What about the strong men that are out there that do these things?
There are strong men. Don't get me wrong. But if you do a comparison, women will outrate the men.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times some men are forced into that role. They're forced into being that strong person. We make a choice to be that person. And whether that's, like Sister was saying, taking care of the kids, going to referee, being the referee, being the banker, being the driver, all those different roles that we carry. A lot of times men, there are some men that don't do that by choice. Some of them are forced into that position. And so they have to learn how to do all those things. And I think we're just wired that way.
Right. Good one.
Just wired that way.
Just wired. Unfortunately. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Good answers, y'all. Good answers. So if we had, well, I'm not even going to say like a class or anything, but my thing is, I have an 11-year-old child. So and he's a boy in my household. My 2 are grown out of the house, but I have an 11-year-old. So what my mate does for me, he sees. What he doesn't do for me, he sees.
Right.
you know, and that to me, when they do mess up, I'm like, you know, you get so frustrated and it's like, God, you know, my son is seeing this,
Yeah.
you know, and so that's something that we as women, we kind of shelter and make excuses to our children for that behavior.
Yeah.
And that's
Well,
something
because we're expecting them to lead by example, right?
Right.
And you know, when they don't do that, we feel a certain type of way when we have young, impressionable children around the house. You know, I have 4 daughters, and you know, one of the hardest things for me to do was go through my divorce. But I did that not because I did it for me, but I also did it for my youngest, because there is no way that my daughter is to see her mom broken. You know, she needs to understand that you have a choice, and that you don't have to stay as hard as it is. You don't have to do this. And that is leading by example. And sometimes it's really going back and explaining and having these very difficult conversations with your kids about what just happened. And one of the things I didn't do when my kids were younger, when I was younger, was explaining. This has came out since my daughters have now been older. I didn't explain things well to my kids, because it was like one of those things where that's a child's, you know, I don't need to talk to my kids about that. They're kids, they don't understand. But kids understand more than we think they do, and more than we give them credit for. So it's having that conversation when our spouse or loved one or, you know, significant other misses a step, and going back and explaining, because sometimes they're like, why did you forgive him? Or why did you forgive her for that? You know,
they get
how
mad
could
at
you do
us.
that? Right? How could you do that? But you have to go back and you have to explain to them in a way that they understand that, you know, whatever it is, it wasn't towards them. And then explaining your emotions. And in order to explain your emotions, you have to understand your emotions. Why did you settle for that? Why did you allow that to happen? So if you don't understand it, you can't explain it to the kids. If it doesn't make sense to you, you can't explain it to nobody else.
And that's all about self-healing. I feel like you should take some time for yourself when you go through a divorce. You know, you should take some time, you should heal yourself and learn from mistakes, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
In Tanya,
because it's not easy.
No, it's not. I agree. I totally agree. I went through my divorce, you know, and I have an eldest daughter that's autistic. You know, how do you explain to an autistic child, you know, with a disability? I have one who don't have a disability, you know, so it was very difficult for me because I was emotionally broken. You know, this is the man that I vowed to stay with. I vowed to God, you know, to death do us part. However, it didn't proceed that way.
Right.
Emotionally broken, and my daughters, you know, seen all this.
Yeah.
So you begin to say to your children, especially girls, you don't have to stay in something that's loveless. You know, you don't have to stay there. Don't stay.
There's no fear.
Right.
A lot of people stay because children, you know, or finances. And I think, you know, that is the wrong thing to do.
That is so, sis, I'm so glad you said that, because I just had I have a lot of conversations, sis. But I just had a conversation with someone who was talking about staying in it for the sake of the children. And here's what I think, and you're not doing any service to your children by staying in a relationship that is broken, because your kids see you broken, and all you're doing is showing them that you need to just suck it up, buttercup, and this is it. This is it. Suck it up, buttercup.
You're hurting them way more.
You're hurting them way more. They're so resilient. Children are resilient, and we don't give them, we stay for the kids. In a broken relationship, like they don't see you happy. Like they don't even see the best part of you.
Right.
They don't see that. And you're lovely, and you're kind, and you're wonderful, and you have a big heart, but that's all being tainted by what's going on in this relationship, right? So the kids don't get the best you. They
Right.
don't get it. So yeah, so just explaining to your kids, you know, when things are going awry, and then just making sure you understand why for
Right.
yourself,
Yeah.
or you
You know,
can talk to your kids about it.
that deposit and withdrawal don't only play a important part of relationships, but it also play a very important part with our children as well.
Yeah,
So we have to keep that in mind as well.
yeah, yeah.
It
What
also
we're giving our
on
kids.
self-esteem.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
because you can start to feel like, speaking for me, my self-esteem was very low. I didn't think I was attractive. I didn't think I was beautiful. I didn't think I was deserving. And so what you're doing is you're showing your kids, you know, don't feel, you know, you like you said, the self-esteem, like, oh, my mom doesn't feel beautiful. Am I really beautiful? I look exactly like her.
Exactly. They start questioning. Yep. That's
You know,
right.
I look just like my mom, but she doesn't feel beautiful. What is that? We got to do better.
That's crazy.
Not right.
Whew. Okay, I got another question. And this is another topic, but this is one that us women are on here, so I want to speak on it. How do you regain trust after one cheated? If you were in a relationship and that person cheated and then you got back with them, I mean, it's possible because
It's possible.
I've done it,
Been there, done that.
but how do you regain that trust?
You know, I'm gonna tell you this from my perspective.
Mhm.
That's a very hard thing to do.
Mhm.
That trust, you start gaining that trust through action. But more importantly, that person that's been cheated on has to have some type of relationship with God. I'm gonna tell you, you got to stay in prayer
Mhm.
because you know it's me for one thing. I mean, I'm gonna go totally off.
Mhm.
Every little thing that person do, I'm gonna say, oh, you're cheating, or oh, you're doing something you don't supposed to be doing. Now my mind is somewhere else. So to gain that trust, again, counseling and prayer, you know, having open communication.
Yeah. Oh, not an open relationship, sis. Not an open relationship.
Because the thing about it is, we're not gonna get nowhere, especially if we don't learn how to work together. And by working together, it's coming together and talking about what hurt me.
Yeah.
Why did you do this?
It's admittance.
Exactly. To admit your fault. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I completely
that's
agree.
another looking at self, like, what did I do to make him do that?
Yeah.
A lot of women
And
think,
we do that.
yeah,
We do that. And we make it about us. And it could very well not have anything to do with you.
Exactly.
9 times out of 10, 99.9% of the time, it don't have nothing to do with you.
Nothing.
Because that is, and this goes for men and women. Men ain't the only ones that cheat. Let's keep it 100, right? Men ain't the only ones cheat, but since we're talking about that, let's just go there.
Right.
We turn it around and we start looking at, what did I do? Maybe I gained too much weight. Maybe I lost too much weight. Maybe he don't like my hair. Maybe he don't this. Maybe I didn't cook enough. Maybe whatever, right? But 99.9% of the time, it don't have nothing to do with you as a woman. This is all him. And I agree with sis. If you don't admit what you did, then now I'm just in my mind like, am I crazy? Or did you just get caught and you still not saying that you did what you did? Now, come on now. Admittance helps me believe that you care, right? When you admit something, like, for example, my daughter, I wasn't home this weekend. My daughter is 16. It's just she and I. And she has her girlfriend. And I'm going to go back to Sis Tanya when she talked about prayer and all of that, because that's very, very, very important, because you got to trust God in all of this, right? So her friend came over, her girlfriend came over, spent the night, stayed the day. and then didn't have a ride home, and she lives down in Eastlake. So now she called me to tell me this, right? So that's a level of trust that I've built with my baby, right? Because she could have just tried to, don't tell my mom. She went to the phone and she called me. She said, Mom, I just want to tell you, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and I hung up, and then I called her back and I said, thank you for letting me know. Thank you, because you could have just not called me. I'm 45 minutes away. I wasn't coming home that night, but she honors me enough that she's going to call me and give me the truth, right? So when someone honors you in your position, they're going to give you the truth. So as your wife, if you don't honor me, that'll preach. If you don't honor me in my position, you're not going to give me the truth.
Right.
You're just not going to do it.
Right.
And so then I'm like, okay, I gotta believe God, because God will reveal it. He is definitely a revealer. He will reveal it. You ain't gotta do nothing. You ain't gotta work hard. You ain't gotta be searching no phones. You ain't gotta be calling nobody. You ain't gotta be putting no trackers on.
All darkness comes to light. And
then just trusting Him and praying and ask God to heal your heart. And heal my heart, so that I'm able to love the man that I believe you gave me.
Now, what about when you dismiss that relationship, you get in a new relationship, and when you're in your new relationship, there's things that are familiar, and then all of a sudden you have triggers because you haven't healed. Right. And that's what I'm saying, as far as taking time to heal after a divorce, because you do get the triggers. Now, if you were, let's say you have the man of your dreams, and let's say he says, babe, I'm gonna go to the store real quick. And you don't suspect anything or anything. And all of a sudden 5 hours go by.
Yeah.
And then he comes home, hey, babe. And you're like, where'd you go? Oh, I just went out. But he didn't tell you where or anything. Do you think that that's a problem? Or do you think that that's okay?
That's a problem, because that's being very disrespectful. If someone did that to me, you tell me you go in one place and you end up somewhere else, first of all, you're lying. There's a lie right there. Yeah. You're disrespecting me with your lying. So that's not okay.
And no, babe, I went to some stores. You know what I mean? So when you get that perfect mate who think, everything is great, and then they do something that triggers, how do you handle that? You know what I mean? You got to question him, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Let me say this, because the first thing that was very important, I must say this: there's no perfect mate.
No.
True.
That's the problem when we think that we have the perfect man.
Ain't nobody perfect. No male, no woman.
Right. All men fall short of God's glory. So there's always going to be a mistake. But again, like I said, when you initially start lying, telling me that you going to the store and then you coming back 5 hours later, no. They're going to see, there goes the trust. Yeah. They're going to put down.
Right.
I agree. I mean, and I go back to communication. You didn't consider in all of this, and communication wasn't there. Now, you could have went to one store and then decided because I'll get lost and I'll be gone. I'm running to the store and I'm at Target, then I'm down at Ross, and then but the thing to that is you need to text me or call me and say, babe, I know I was saying I was going to to Ralph's, but I remember, I need to go to Home Depot and get blah, blah, blah. Because anything more than 2 hours, when you say you run into the store an hour, is too long considering where the store is. Because then now I'm thinking, what's going on? Why you not calling me, or why you not back home? So now I got these thoughts in my head that's not fair to me. So now you're not being fair to me, because and 9 times out of 10, your new mate knows your old story. Because women will tell the old story. We'll tell why we broke up,
That's
what
good.
happened, right? So
Do you think that that's good? Telling your whole story from your past to your current
I
man?
think that you should tell pieces of your story, especially if it was broken.
Keyword.
Because if you had a broken relationship, first of all, we shouldn't be in a new relationship, if we're not healed from that old relationship, and that takes time, right? That takes time so that you can deal with all of the emotional baggage or luggage that you're carrying, so that you don't carry it into your new relationship. And so when you already have trust issues because you were cheated on, because he stole money, because he lied, whatever he did, that needs to be explained to the new spouse. Or the new love, right? Here's what I was dealing with before, and so I'm hesitant to jump into a new relationship. That's just being honest and open, right? About who you are and where you came from. And
Right.
So then it's up to him to be like, oh, and if you that dude, you're gonna be like, babe, I'm still struggling. I got things going on, but that's a real man to say I'm not ready and you're not ready, right? But if he says, I'm committed to you, I hear your story, you don't have to worry about me, then I'm not gonna worry about you, right? But when you start doing stuff that keeps you away for 5 hours and you don't check in, bro, there's a problem.
Right. Hey, Smiley, welcome to the platform. Smiley, this
What's
is
going on?
Denise. This is
Hi.
I keep calling him Smiley. That's his old name, but it's Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, what's going on?
So we're
You know
talking
what?
about
Let me add something else in there.
Go ahead.
What's really very important is that a woman does what's called a self-reflection.
Yeah.
Because the thing about it is, you're going to start asking yourself, why am I always drawing these men that constantly like to lie? So don't jump into, after you break up or get out of one relationship, do not back into another relationship until you do a self-reflection.
Yeah.
Right.
A self-evaluation.
What I know, a lot of women and a lot of men there's some people that can't be alone. They don't know how to be alone. So they let go with that current relationship. And then someone gets in their ear, or it could be a past relationship that is like, okay, spark, you guys kind of kick it, and then it grows into something instantly.
Yeah. And I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, right? That happens.
Right.
But like sis was saying, but you gotta be open and you gotta be honest about where you are and where you came from, because there is a vulnerability that is lying there, that if somebody does something or says something, this is for men and women. If somebody says something, you're off. You set off, you on a whole nother mission. He could have just, he could have ran into, some friends and they was chopping it up at the grocery store. And you know how that can go. And I didn't text you back. And now you on a whole nother mission. And you out here cheating because you know what I mean? And it could be something completely different. That's why I was saying it's so important. I agree with sis. It's so important for you to self-reflect, and it's so important for you to be healed, to a certain extent, to where you don't take all that garbage into your new relationship. And when if he or she starts showing signs of the garbage, it's time to go. Choose you.
Right. Okay, we got a man in the house. So y'all ask him some questions that you want to know as far as a man's thought process on our topics. Get him.
First, tell me what I missed.
Ooh, a lot. We were talking about examples of deposits and withdrawals in a relationship. Then we moved on to how to regain trust after you cheated, or after one of the mates cheated. Is it possible to stay in that relationship?
For me,
I don't think we really answered the question.
Right.
I think it is possible. Been there, done that. I think it's possible.
Yeah.
But like Sis Tanya was saying, it takes prayer, it takes work on both parties, no matter who does the cheating.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Huh?
I'm out.
Yeah, that's a no-go for you, huh? It's a no-go.
That's a no. That is a no-go.
Let me
Yeah.
ask you a question, Smiley. What are some deposits that you do in your marriage?
Like in what way? What do you mean?
Like, what are some positive things that okay, let me give you an example. Let me get my cheat sheet. Don't judge me. Deposits is positive, caring, kind, and words of actions.
Hmm.
So, well, I'm sorry, you guys, we're going back so I can kind of get him hip to this. There are 6 major deposits: understanding, attend to the little things, keep commitments, clarify expectations, show integrity, and apologize sincerely.
I
What
do all that.
you do all that?
I do all that. That's not me just, you know what I'm saying, trying to be funny. Like, I'm dead serious. I do all that.
Do you have any withdrawals in your relationship, such as do you
Hit me
bring
with the cheat sheet.
hit you with the cheat sheet? Feeling lonely, negativity, take, constant worrying, depression, irritability, confusion, or lack of?
I mean, irritability, I think that's something that everybody go through periodically. Might not even be related to the relationship. It might be something work related. Car broke down. It was just one of them long days. Like that's a we all go through that one. But as far as the take, I honestly I don't. But I'll put it this way: she constantly tells me stuff like she's trying to figure out how to do more because she feels like I do so much. I tell her, you don't even realize how much you've done. That's one of the reasons I go so hard for you.
Right.
So we kind of trying to outwork
and
each other.
that's keeping her cup full. That's what I was talking about before, is when
Cup of peace.
right, that when you
Big old cup.
right, when you're constantly giving, your cup becomes empty, right? But what he's describing is her cup gets empty, but I'm filling her cup back up with all the things that we talked about as far as deposits. He's filling her back up so that she can be full for the next day. So whatever she needs to release and give, she has enough. She's not depleting. She has enough. And so he's filling her back up. And that's the one thing I was telling you that's so hard in relationship, to find that balance, is making sure that if I'm giving and I'm putting out, that you're giving me something back. And that's that balance, like checking balance, right? That's that balance that we need in a relationship. It just can't be one-sided, because you can't be rich and I'm poor.
Right. Okay, one question. I hear a lot of men saying they want a tradition, they want to be in a traditional relationship, meaning, I want my wife to cook, clean, do that, do whatever, and I'm gonna, be the breadwinner and pay the bills. Does that exist anymore?
Yeah,
it does.
It does. It may not be as prevalent as it used to be, but it still exists. Excuse me. It still exists. I think as it pertains to dating today, a lot of people, men and women, try to blend different ideologies with people who ain't meant to be blended with. So you may have a guy who says, I want a traditional woman, right? But he's still holding on to certain modern aspects, right? And that's fine if you can find a woman who matches that. But the problem comes in, especially how we talk on different social media apps. You'll see a post saying, I need a man who makes X, Y, and Z, who's gonna pay everything, yada, yada, yada. But I still want to make all my own money. You know what I mean? Like, you come across these situations, and honestly, I don't see nothing wrong with anybody's point of view, as long as you find the person who matches that with you. A lot of people get mad and start leaving angry comments and all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, obviously that person ain't for you.
I like for me, the traditional role, I've never seen it in my entire life. You know, both my grandparents worked, my mom, my dad worked, me and my ex-husband worked.
Look,
So
it's hard today, especially with just the price of everything. Like you damn near have to have a two-income household.
right.
Like the median income for Black men is around $45,000 a year. That's average, right? And then you think about what it costs to run a home for a year, unless you
Yeah.
really like in the hood like that, it's
Mm.
you're gonna put yourself in a situation where you stuck in that paycheck to paycheck cycle. So
Right.
you supplement it with that second person's income, y'all can start to do a little bit. It's still really not enough based on the cost of everything today. But you have people out here who earning six figures plus who are able to do those things based on where they live, what they, you know what I'm saying, financial obligations is. It's possible. It's not as common, but it's possible.
And what would you tell like today's generation, like our teenagers, or I wouldn't even say our teenagers, let's just say our 25 to 35, because they're
Mhm.
still young. 25 to 35, and they come to you and they're saying, either he or she is saying, God, you know, I wish I could just, the female, I wish I could just work from home. I don't want to, or I just wish I could be a traditional wife. I don't want to work. I don't want to do this. And then the man comes to you and says, man, she don't have to work. I don't want her to work. You know, these are two different stories. So the man saying, I don't want her to work, but the woman wants to work. And the man saying, I don't want her to work. I want to take care of this. And then the other story is the woman is saying, I wish I didn't have to work. What would you tell the kids today, the 25 to 35, if they came to you with that example? Because how do I get her to not work? I want to be the man.
You really only got two options. Option A is y'all gonna have to figure out some kind of compromise because it's not gonna go 100% your way.
Mm-hmm.
Because you still trying to stuff two different ideologies in the same box, and a lot of times that don't fit. Option B, and this is one of the hard things for a lot of people to do, you have to recognize when you run your course.
Mm-hmm.
A
Yeah.
lot of times we so scared to let go of somebody because you got time invested that you're trying to make them who you want them to be versus finding somebody who already fits what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's I think that's one of the hardest things because right now everybody's trying to force their way of looking at stuff onto other people.
Right.
And I've seen enough to know that you got a lot of different ways to look at the world, look at relationships, look at finance. There's a lot of different ways to look at all of it. And when it comes down to it, somebody agrees with you.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I saw something, I don't know, maybe a couple of weeks ago, guy was giving advice to women. He was like, ladies, I want y'all to think about the kind of man you're looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want a man who does X, Y, and Z for fun. Like he said, I want you to think about your ideal guy, right? What does your ideal guy do for fun? Once you figure out what he does for fun, go to the places where that's taking place.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
So like if you looking for a guy who likes to go camping and sit around a campfire playing guitar and talking about Dungeons and Dragons, maybe it might be a good idea to go to places where that's likely to happen.
Right.
Right.
You're
That's
not gonna you're not typically gonna find that guy at the club. But
right.
honestly, that's where we meet a lot of people, between the club and the dating apps and all of that. So that's where we meet a lot of people. But it's just one of them. It's like a cheat code.
I remember back in the day, I was trying to date. I was trying to find me a fitness man. So my mom said, go in the produce aisle in the grocery store. That's where I was, and I never found no damn fitness man.
You need to be at the
No.
gym. That's what you wanted.
At
Right,
the
the
gym. At
Yeah.
the gym.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it sounds super simple, but it actually makes sense. Like if I'm looking for a certain type of person, I have to think, okay, what would that kind of person be doing with their free time?
Yeah.
Where would they hang out?
Mhm.
Go to those places and start making that a spot that you frequent.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for, I don't know, if I'm looking for a girl who like to strip, she on her hot girl shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I couldn't find her at a church, but I know where
But
I
you
definitely
might.
can find her. I know if I hit the strip club,
Right.
she's probably there.
But you know what? I think he makes a valid point about understanding what you want. And I think that goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the self-reflection and understanding you, because you will mix company, right? And then once you mix company, now you're in a situation where you want to work, you want to be independent, you want to have your own. Now you with a man who's like, nah, babe, like, I don't want you to work. I think I got it, you know, whatever. And you're like, no, I want to have my own. So now y'all going back and forth, right? So it's important to have those conversations up front.
Yeah.
And really just understanding who you are, and then talk about that stuff. You know, don't let lust in your flesh get in the way of having these deep conversations with
You
a
asking for too much.
potential, right?
Yeah. He
What
said
do you say?
you asking for too much.
I'm just saying, like, you can be passionate and you can lust after someone, and you guys can have, y'all can click sexually and all of that, but then what's beyond that? Sexual attraction only goes so far. You can only live off of that so much, you know, to a certain place. So you have to know who you are and what you're looking for in order to, you know, like he was saying, attract the right person. You attract what you are, and you got to know it. You got to know what you want. And that's the problem with our, like, between 25 and 35, that age group, they don't know yet.
Yeah, they do.
If you don't
They
know,
want baddies and they want millionaires. Stop playing.
well, good luck.
No. So he goes, I agree with her. They don't know what they want. They think they want what social media is telling them.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
But then they get it, and it's not what they're looking for. Because
No.
you haven't done that work to figure out what do I actually want?
Mhm.
Yeah.
What am I looking for?
Yeah.
You haven't had that conversation with yourself yet. So
Mhm.
what you do is you chase after the shiny thing.
Mhm.
The girl with the big butt, the dude with the big chain and the nice car, the girl with the 3 foot lashes. You know what I mean? Like,
Come on,
yeah, I
Shane,
said it.
nice car.
I said it.
I'm telling you, and all that stuff fades, you know, and those things change over time. And so then what happens? Then you go back into what we were talking about earlier. Now you cheating because the 3 foot eyelashes is off, and your butt look funny now, and you're not the same person that I met 20 years ago. Now my visual, you know, is all obscured. You're not really who I really wanted, you know, so get into that mode now. So now you got to deal with the cheating and the truth.
Exactly. And so more importantly, the penis is not working like it used to. You know what I'm saying? There's
Let's
a
talk
lot
about
of
it.
Mhm. That's true.
but
That's a whole nother topic, Nick, because we can go there.
Right. For real. Sorry,
No,
Scott.
Go ahead and take that.
always self-reflection, and you know, always ask yourself, what can I bring to the table to meet him, you know, in the middle.
Yeah.
Hey, you can't say that too loud, man. The women gonna come for you.
I'm on a whole nother level. I
Hey,
don't mind. Here's my thing. I make, you know, I do decent. I do all right for myself.
Mhm.
But I'm not a woman that does not want a man to lead. And that took time for me to understand, right, sis? That took time for me to like, I was told, be independent. We was talking about this yesterday. Put your money to the side. Don't tell him how much you made. Don't, all of that.
Oh, the
I hate
good old mad money.
You know what I'm saying? So when that happens, you start to build distrust. Now, I can't, that's the sign of I don't trust you when I don't give you everything. How we gonna build something if I don't know what you bring to the table? How we gonna build something if I don't know what you got?
right. And
that's crazy to me.
another thing. Wait. When you're married, I mean, Smiley, you're married. Do y'all share?
Get back off of her.
Huh?
Mm.
Do you guys?
Go ahead.
Do you guys share bank accounts, or do you guys have separate accounts and then one joint one?
We got a joint, and we have some separates.
Yeah.
Yep. And Denise, when you were married, did you guys have joint, or was everything separate, or did
everything was separate? Everything was separate, and that was part of the problem. Right. Everything was separate.
What about you, Tanya?
Mine was separate as well. It didn't start off that way. Money kept coming out of the account without my knowledge, yada yada yada, and so I sister said, you know what, I have to get my own account.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
See, I'm learning, because I don't think I ever had a joint account in my life, married or not. And then you have to look back. Is that about trust? What is the fear there? Did something happen? Were you taken advantage of? All those types of things. My fear of that was, who's going to take care of it? Yeah. Who's going to take care of something if it messes up? So if I have a savings account, both our names on it, and something goes wrong in this house, like, what if I go to that account and that money's gone? That's a fear. Yeah, a fear. But I mean, I just, because I was always I won't say the men I attract, but there are some men that will just take advantage and opportunists. Yeah. And it's too scary for me. Yeah. And that makes me sad, because when you have to live your life in fear of someone you claim to love, or someone that claims to love you, that you have the fear that you can't trust them enough to share those things, or to have play that role in your life. Mm-hmm. But then what if, when you, like, for instance, me and my ex-husband, I tried to open a joint account, and I was like, let's do this. And he was like, nah, I'm just gonna, he would give me like a weekly amount, and then he'd have his account, I'd have my account. And so I said, okay, we have our separate accounts, but let's open a joint savings. Yeah. So I opened a joint savings. I did do that. I did do that. And I started it off with a certain amount. And I said, you put this much in per week, I'll put this much in per week. And at the end of the 5 months, it was only what I put in. Yeah. So that's a lack of communication. No, it was communicated. Oh, that he was taking it? There was nothing being taken. I was the only one depositing. Oh. There was no withdrawals or anything. I was the only one depositing. So he wasn't holding up his end of the bargain. Right. So I ended up closing the account. But we talked about it after. He just wasn't ready at the time, and that's all fine. And so now, in today's world, like with these, I'm so scared for these kids. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm just so scared for the younger generation when it comes to that, because they can, some children, my children are 25 to 35. You know what I mean? Yeah. They have that old spirit. They have that old soul. So they have that old auntie, or they still got their grandma that has that old spirit that they're trying to, the traditional roles. You're not gonna really, well, you guys say there are some out there, but you're really not gonna, I don't see the traditional. Well, I think traditional is just, it's not, because what Smiley was saying is Tony. What he was saying was that there's a different
because of inflation and because of cost of living and because, you know, it's just different. There was a time when my father worked, my mother stayed home. But again, that was a different time when things were less expensive and he could manage it. Now it's just different.
Even today, if you can manage it, I just feel like it's not like that anymore. Because if you got like Kevin Samuels, I always go back to him because I'm sorry, that was my guy. You get this girl, or you have this $1 million man, and you have this girl that's like, I want this. I'll cook you a meal, but that's all you get from me.
Yeah.
Like, here's the traditional. Get your ass in there and do some laundry. Get your ass in there and clean up. You know what I mean? If you don't have to work, don't feel like the world evolves around you.
Yeah.
I wanted to go back to something she said earlier about what she was talking about. Get your own, stash the money to the side, and you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these issues, this don't start at adulthood. If you really look at it, it starts all the way back to how we teach kids.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that
we
very
tell
young.
little girls very different messages than what we tell little boys.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? My 3-year-old, my older daughter, my 15-year-old, she plays basketball, and the coach has a daughter who's also 3. So sometimes we'll have her over here, and then her and my son, they have play dates or whatever the case. And while in the midst of them playing, something will happen, and just watching the dynamic on how all of the adults in the room treat her versus him, it's like we start super early teaching very different lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't even realize that we teaching men and women way back when to view each other a certain way that ain't exactly sensible.
Right.
So we teach that girl that everything is about you. Both of them riding their bicycles or their big wheels, and they both fall on the ground. Both of them scrape their knee. Everybody rushes to that girl. So she starts to understand her place in the world is cater to me.
Right.
And that boy starts to understand what I got to do for my own.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just an example of the differences, because it's multiple differences on how we teach the kids as far as where to understand your place in this world.
Yeah.
You know what
and that's one of those things. Like, you have a lot.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you say?
You know what I teach my kids? Make sure you know how to cook. Make sure you know how to do laundry. Make sure you know to wrap up when you have sex, and make sure that you pay attention to your surroundings, and make sure you read and gain knowledge.
Yeah. I think to his point, you know, about, we talked about emotional intelligence before.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't allow that boy to be emotional about his fall, and you allow her to be emotional about her fall,
she's a princess now.
We're not building a man that understands it's okay to have an emotion about falling. That hurt.
Right.
It hurt, and I want to cry about it, and I want somebody to comfort me.
But if I cry, I'm going to get whooped.
I want somebody to comfort me, right? That's vulnerability. We talked about being vulnerable earlier, and it is a strength to be vulnerable. But if we don't teach our young men that it's okay that you're hurt, and I'm going to caress you, I'm going to hold you so that you can feel okay to cry. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be vulnerable, baby. It's all right. You feel, you know, let me see, are you okay? And then help him understand his wound. You feel? Okay, let daddy see, or let mommy see, it's okay.
And that was the problem of our generation, because I know if we were out somewhere and you see a boy fall, you see if they start crying, the daddy's like, get your butt up. You ain't
get up and shake it off.
Get up. Why you crying? You ain't no punk.
Shake it off.
So I get that.
Hey, look, I called it out, but I ain't gonna play like I'm above reproach because I've done it. You know what I mean, I
You
try
gotta,
not. I try not to. I try not to. I try to be as balanced as I can, but
Yeah.
it,
I just think
it's
I
hard.
think Tony, there's just follow-up. You allow him to be vulnerable, and then it's follow-up to say, you're strong, son, you're resilient, you got this. You know, so that gives them the perfect balance of allowing them to be vulnerable and then reassuring their strength. I think it's just double, it's just twofold. You can't do one without the other.
I agree. It's like I said, like me and one of my homeboys, we both came from some, saying rough backgrounds or whatever. And one of the things we talk about is both of us got young sons, so we talk about trying to keep our sons from repeating our mistakes.
Mhm.
Some of those mistakes got made because of this dynamic. You got to be hard. You got to be tough. All that crying shit, they're weak, boy. That's how we got it. You know what I mean? Like I used to get told, one, I better not ever run from a fight.
Yeah.
Two,
Yeah.
I better not ever lose a fight.
Mhm.
So I fought a lot, like a lot. And the only ass whoopings I done ever wore came from people I was related to. And most of my fights, I was outnumbered. Like I was a scrapper.
Right.
You know what I mean? But that came from way back in pre-K and elementary, running from something. What? But look, I'd rather fight all 7 of y'all than fight that motherfucker at the house.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, so me and him talk about it, like, I don't want to raise another real nigga.
Yeah.
I want him to be well-rounded and
You want to raise
be
a real
able to.
man.
I want him to be able to process different shit without that being the go-to. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when he fall, he scrapes something. Yeah, I go check on him, make sure he good. But I always try to turn it around. Like, I tell him, hey, show me your mean face. You know what I mean? Like, I got it's a video on my page where we just laughing around. I'm like, all right, show me your mean face. Here go. It'll be like that's just one of all the things.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I use to kind of, when he get hurt behind something, he'll cry for a minute. And I try to comfort him. Then I tell him, okay, you good, you got it. Now show me your mean face.
Right. So you back some with manlyhood. Go ahead, Tanya.
Those things were taught to us by forefathers, that we are warriors. We're, our men are tough, this and that and the other. And so we have became conditioned with that. And so now we teach, some people teach their young boys, you are warriors, be tough. So it's something that we just, like I said, became conditioned with,
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore we teach our young boys, as I said before.
I think to a degree it is somewhat necessary, because as men we're supposed to be protectors of the society. Now, not every man is going to be a warrior. That's the thing that I feel like we got to get away from.
Right.
When you look at any major society, all the way back to the tribes, you had the shamans, you had teachers, healers, you had the warriors, you had hunters. Everybody had a role to play. Not every man is going to be the warrior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you got to be okay with it.
Exactly.
All right, y'all. I love y'all. I love how we be speaking. We speak your truth. Let us speak truth. Join us on YouTube, family, people. Okay, that was my shout out to myself. But
I'm sorry. Did you mention your disclaimer, Nikki?
No, but I put it in the video. On when people review it, they can see it in the video. My disclaimer. Yeah. But I appreciate y'all. This was good. Each one teach one. That's my slogan for this one. And until
All right, y'all.
time, we will continue this again
All
in a
right.
couple days.
Thank you. Thank you so
y'all.
much for having me on, Nick.
Absolutely. You guys have a
Bye.
good night. Bye.